Today, in an off week for the UFC, we will discuss the fights that have been announced thus far for UFC 300. What will be the main event? What will be the opening bout? I'm not sure, but we're going to take a look at it anyway. All of this on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. Your boy Matt right back in the house. We get ready to get into UFC 300 and the fights that have been announced thus far. So, these are not in any particular order, but we're going to start going through them because there ain't a whole lot happening, at least as far as the UFC this week. PFL trying to make a couple of waves, but it's the PFL. Anyway, let's start out as I check my Nizotes. We have Zhang Weili stepping in there with Zhang Xiaonan for the women's strawweight title. Great fight. Can't wait to see it. Would have loved to have seen it in China. I think it would have been bigger in China, but it definitely is a big fight. So I am interested on that. I'm interested for that on UFC 300. We got Justin Gaethje stepping in the octagon with Max Holloway to fight for the BMF championship. I should say Justin defending the BMF championship. You know, I know a lot of people weren't necessarily hyped up about that fight for fear of, you know, the damage that Max Holloway may take. But I'm actually really excited for that fight, and I think Max Holloway is going to shock a lot of people. I'm not picking him to win, but I think he's going to shock a lot of people for probably how well he might perform in that fight. Let's move on. We got Arman Sarukian taking on Charlie Oliveira. Definitely excited to see that fight. No doubt that between that as well as, whatever happens to Justin Gaethje and the Max Holloway fight, one of those three men is definitely going to end up challenging Islam Makhachev for the lightweight championship eventually. So if Justin wins, he's definitely in the run-in, and whoever wins between Arman as well as Charles Oliveira. So definitely excited to see that fight. We got Alexander Rakic stepping in there with Yuri Prochazka. Another banger. You know what I'm saying? Anytime Yuri Prochazka is fighting, it's a banger. Rakic is no joke. You know, I know he's coming up off of a really bad leg injury, knee injury, but I'm definitely excited to see that fight as well. Aljamain Sterling versus Calvin Kattar at featherweight. So, Aljo moving up to featherweight. You know, Aljo to me is never appointment viewing television, so to speak, but I am interested in seeing him face off against Calvin Kattar just to see how he's going to look in the featherweight division. This is not a huge banger fight for me, but definitely interested in seeing it. So this is, out of the fights I've announced so far, for me, this is a little bit of the low point, all right? But let's see what else Uncle Dana has been cooking up. We got Bo Nickal stepping in there with Cody Brundage. I guess. You know what I'm saying? I guess. I mean, this is pretty much a squash match for Bo Nickal. You know what I'm saying? This is just pretty much to get Bo Nickal in front of all the eyes that are going to purchase the UFC 300 pay-per-view, either legally or ill. Nevertheless, bro, this fight doesn't really do a whole lot for me, so I think Dana fell asleep at the wheel on this one, but, it is what it is. They want to get Bo Nickal in front of a larger audience. So that is what it is. Let's move on. How about Davison Figueiredo, Figgy Smalls, stepping in there with Cody Garbrandt? This I'm interested in seeing. It's a fight that originally was supposed to be going down at 125 pounds. Multiple times Cody Garbrandt had to pull out of the fight. He had a lot of complications from that particular illness that had us all locked away in the house for a year and a half. But, definitely interested in seeing this. I truly enjoy, I enjoy it like it's, look, I enjoy fading Cody Garbrandt any chance I get. The more I can fade Cody Garbrandt, it makes my teeth white. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to enjoy this because I feel like Davison Figueiredo is going to go out there and do work against Cody Garbrandt. Davison looked outstanding in his debut at bantamweight, so I can't wait to see that fight. I mean, it's not a huge fight, but still, it's two former champions fighting, so I'm interested in seeing that one. So maybe Dana White woke up from the wheel for that one. Let's move on. This is a fight that was just recently announced within the last 2 days. Sadiq Youssef stepping in there with Diego Lopez. Now, this one right here, as you can tell by me getting hyped up, I'm not really too much tripping on Sadiq Youssef. I believe he is a good comparable fighter. I think he has an outstanding YouTube channel, so no shade to that man, but I'm a huge Diego Lopez fan. I think this guy is definitely a contender. I think he's going to go really far in the division. So I'm definitely anxious to see that. I think that fight is going to bang because Sadiq Youssef goes out there to take people out. He goes out there to put hands on people, knock them out, TKO him, do whatever he can. And Diego Lopez is no joke. Outstanding submissions and great stand-up. Man hits with power. It's awesome. So I'm definitely excited about this fight. It might be a little under the radar, but for your boy Matt, it's above the radar because I can't wait to see it. So I'm anxious about that. Now, what about the legend? He is legend. Jim Miller stepping in the octagon with the OG King Bobby Green. Now, this is another one I'm interested in seeing because at the end of the day, man, Jim Miller is a legend. He's still out here doing it. He's still out here putting it down. Bobby Green is still here. He's still doing it. I know Bobby Green hasn't been in his best form, roughly in about his last 3 to 4 fights. He had that major knockout win over Grant Dawson, but still, one might say that Bobby Green could slightly be on the slide. But nevertheless, stepping in there with the OG legend, Jim Miller, I'm excited to see this one either way. I like both of these guys, so whoever wins this, I'm going to be happy for. So I'm with this one. Now, let's get into the last fight that's been announced so far for UFC 300. And I think this fight is fool's gold, if you know what I'm talking about. This fight is a little bit fakish. You know what I'm saying? This fight, for those of y'all who are old enough to remember or been around, this fight is like the ladies from the 90s off Baywatch. It could be a little fake. Might be a little synthetic, if you know what I'm saying. We got, as I'm checking my notes, I just want to make sure I don't ruin nothing. Holly Holmes, the legend from the UFC, legendary bantamweight fighter, also fought once at featherweight, most known for dethroning, running her out of the sport, Ronda Rousey. Holly Holm stepping in the octagon with freshly signed Kayla Harrison from the PFL. This fight is fool's gold. I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so recently, PFL's Don Davis was on Ariel Helwani's MMA Hour. He was asked about Kayla Harrison, if she was going to come back, if she was going to fight Cyborg. He was making it out like the fight didn't happen right now due to, Cyborg had other obligations where she's about to do a boxing match. Kayla Harrison was injured. That's why they couldn't put that fight together for their big Bellator versus PFL show. Whatever, bro. He's talking about, beyond a shadow of a doubt, Kayla Harrison and Cyborg is going to be made for this summer, 2024, no later than the fall. Don Davis, whatever, bro. Kayla Harrison just signed to the UFC. PFL, Bellator, all of that. Cyborg is all in the rear view. You know what I'm saying? She's over in the UFC now. But here's what I mean by this is fool's gold. Given the current climate of Holly Holm's career and her fighting style. This is not the light on her feet, bouncing around on her toes Holly Holmes, who might be able to light Kayla Harrison up on the feet. This is a older Holly Holmes, which tends to want to grapple and hand fight a lot up against the cage. And let me tell you, Holly Holmes is getting, a little bit up in age. She doesn't have the strength or the explosion that she used to have. Kayla Harrison's going to eat that all day. You're not getting ready to hand fight, hold Kayla Harrison up against the fence. You know what I'm talking about? It just ain't getting ready to happen. Kayla Harrison's going to eat Holly Holmes for lunch. And to me, the way I look at this fight when I say it's fool's gold, this is a fight to get Kayla Harrison in front of all the eyes at UFC 300. She goes out there, she does work against Holly Holmes, and then it completely sets her up to fight the winner of Raquel Pennington and Juliana Pena for the Bantamweight Championship. Because this fight, Holly Holmes, Kayla Harrison, is going to be a Bantamweight. So it completely sets that up for her to come in, get a win against Holly Holmes. They'll prop her up. Kayla Harrison, she's a superstar. She only has one loss on her record. They're going to hype it up. And then they're going to throw her in there with the Bantamweight champion. Whether it's Raquel Pennington or it's Juliana Pena, whoever wins that fight. And if that fight don't get made, because I know Juliana Pena is dealing with injuries, things of that nature, if that fight don't get made, they going to feed Raquel Pennington to the wolves. They going to throw her in there with Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison's going to take her down while Rocky's not listening to her corner like she always does. And Kayla's going to do work and become the new Bantamweight champion of the world. With all that being said, I'm not a huge Kayla Harrison fan, so I'm not trying to make it out like she's the GOAT or nothing like that. That ain't really my deal. But I just see what I see. I know Kayla Harrison would go in there and do work against Raquel Pennington, and I know she's definitely going to do work against Holly Holmes. So, there's that. Now, out of all three of the fighters, Holly Holmes, Kayla Harrison, Raquel Pennington, take Kayla Harrison out, Juliana Pena, out of those three women, I don't see Holly Holmes beating Kayla. If Raquel Pennington listens to her corner and she's able to keep it standing somehow, because Raquel definitely does have tremendous cardio, and Kayla does look tired in some of her fights by the end. Raquel does have that chance. Pena as well rarely ever gets tired. She usually has a really large gas tank where she can keep going. So with that being said, I don't necessarily see, I could see Juliana Pena also using that tactic of trying to outlast Kayla Harrison till she gets tired to beat her. But in my opinion, I think Kayla could beat all three of these women and become the Bantamweight champion of the world, which is what I foresee the UFC is banking on and wanting to happen. And currently, that's the climate for UFC 300. Everyone is still waiting to see if we're going to get Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad welterweight championship fight. Everyone's waiting to see for the big carrot dangling over everyone, the big nugget, so to speak. Are we going to get new middleweight champion of the world, Dricus du Plessis, stepping in the octagon with Israel Adesanya? Still haven't heard anything about that yet, so not sure that's going to be signed, but that's still definitely up in the air. So I'm assuming that one of those two fights is going to be announced for UFC 300, but it hasn't been announced yet. Looking at the card I just told you, I think it's truly it's coming together. Dana fell asleep at the wheel early on. He was coming with these little whack fights. But overall, the card is coming together. Dana's back at the wheel. He barely fell asleep. The Cody Brundage, Bo Nickel fight, he definitely fell asleep at the wheel. But for the most part, it's coming together. So we shall see what else they release, what else they announce. So that's that. Please like, subscribe, comment. I do want to apologize to all the Matter of Fact MMA people out there. Sorry about having such a hiatus in between videos. Your boy is dealing with there's been some family medical emergencies going on, but we still here, we making it happen. So I appreciate you guys for watching this video, and I do want to thank you for checking out another episode of Matter of Fact MMA, and I'll check you next time. Peace.